Okay. Well, greetings everybody. Hope you're all doing good. Hope you're all in good health and in good spirits. I'm doing a quick tutorial right now on Bonzo's paradiddle lick in Dazed and Confused. I had several requests recently on the repost that I just uploaded last week of Dazed and Confused. Song remains the same version, and a lot of questions regarding breakdown of the paradiddle lick that Bonham would typically play in the section. It's kind of like a call and response section just before the first big guitar solo, the transition from the vocal verses that are in 12/8 to a fast 4/4. So I'm just going to play that section real quickly, and then we'll take a closer look at it and break it down. So it's right about at this point where it's like... So let's take a look at this particular fill that he plays, or lick that he repeats. That starts on the mounted tom, one stroke, and then goes onto the snare with the remaining few strokes on the floor toms. The way that goes is like this, and I'll do it very slowly. Okay, once more. At tempo, it sounds like this. Okay, now you can see Bonzo clearly do this, well, pretty clearly in The Song Remains the Same, and you can hear it on pretty much every version from 1973 onward, up to the last time they played it, which was at Earl's Court. And there's video footage from 2 nights at Earl's Court, and you can also see him playing this figure pretty well. I think the camera angle is from out that way. I think at Earl's Court he doesn't actually go on to the low floor tom though as much. Like, he kind of just keeps it on the 16. So it's basically a pretty simple premise. The thing is, it kind of evolved into this. The original version, he's just answering the bass and guitar figure with the same rhythmic figure. So that's da, 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 da. Like, there's some variations like that, but for the most part, that was the way he played that section originally. And then when they started playing it live in '69, it started to evolve a little. It got a little busier. Like, he would maybe put a double bass drum stroke in front of those figures, like this. Okay, and then that evolved into more of like a 16th note between the bass drum doubled and snare and floor tom doubles, kind of like this. So what that does is now you've got the hi-hat on the downbeats, but the bass drum is playing quick doubles on the upbeats, which is a very familiar Bonzo thing to do. And with that as kind of an underpinning, then it began to evolve even more from there into the paradiddle thing. So it went from... and then to this. So that's where you could see the natural progression from simpler to more complex, and then utilizing this kind of rudimental fill. Now at Royal Albert Hall, you could see him clearly play this section, and he plays the paradiddle, and then he kind of stuck with that throughout most of 1970. There's some variations, but it had evolved into this kind of thing. So from there, it continued to evolve into more of a continuous 16th note paradiddle figure over the bass drum and hi-hat thing, like this. So the next logical step then would be that he would, well, he did take it into this kind of more reduced approach of not playing the bass drum so much, and then just using the paradiddle figure as a response to the guitar lick, which is da 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 da. Now, see there, I just played the bass drum in front of the paradiddle, which you can often hear him do that too. You've got. You can also play the bass drum double stroke before the last floor tom hit, instead of a double stroke on the floor tom. So I'll break that down both ways. So you've got the song remains the same way, let's say, which is, you could also play, which I believe I can hear on earlier, like 71, maybe 72 versions. But by 73 and then throughout 75, it seemed to me like he was just simply playing maybe an occasional double stroke instead. Now another thing to note here, this is something that actually Terry brought up a while ago, and I think it's a very good point. He said with the Vistalite kit, it's kind of hard to make out the low frequencies and the tones between the 16 to 18 and the bass drum. They kind of all have this similar kind of low, hard sound. So the difference between can be really hard to make out. So I would basically say, practice both and play both and see what, you like, how it feels. But, either of those is basically in the Bonham vocabulary. So you can't go wrong with them. Now, the last thing I want to just address about that whole thing is once it kicks off into the jam, then they come back with that little call and response thing. Bonzo goes back to that figure, and I believe it's something like this. Okay, and that leads to the, and everybody's favorite scene between Jonesy and Bonzo. So let's just take a quick look at that little section again. So again, it's call and response. It's basically the same figure. I think Bonzo plays a flam the first time though. When he finishes it, he plays, and the flam is between the snare and the 18. And the next one is just, I think, the regular one. Then two flams. Okay, so that's basically it. Now, what he plays, the paradiddle thing that to get back to that he plays when the guitar jam starts out, that's just basically paradiddles that he's alternating between the floor tom and the snare and the hi-hat on the downbeats, bass drum doubles on the upbeats. I've done a bit of a breakdown of this in an earlier video as well, just this kind of specific beat, and Terry did a long video on this kind of variation of the Bonham engine where he demonstrates the paradiddle with the bass drum doubling the double strokes in the hands. So what that looks like is this. Okay, so that's just simply paradiddles. Okay, so you get the general idea with that. It's pretty straightforward. And that's about it for that whole section. So I hope that this video was helpful. And please subscribe to the channel. Also, please subscribe to People's Front of Zeppelin. And I want to say thank you to all followers and current subscribers for supporting the channel and supporting what I'm doing. Thanks a lot. See you soon.